Now that seems quite big and heavy. If you were at the British Shooting Show earlier this year, you may have caught wind of the buzz about a new super high definition digital day-night scope from HIKMICRO, the Alpex Pro A50PL. And if you dropped into the Scott Country stand, you may well have had a chance to have a play with it and look through it as well. That was a very early prototype version of the scope, and now the full production version is on sale and available now from Scott Country, priced at £849.99. It's the latest in a series of Alpex scopes that started with the A50E and EL models a couple of years or so ago. Then HIKMICRO introduced the Alpex 4K Lite, which was designed predominantly for air rifle and rimfire use. And now this new scope, the A50PL, is a successor to that first model, that old A50 model, and it's not to be confused with the 4K Lite, which continues on as part of the range. The new scope, of course, can be used on air rifles and rimfire as well, but the performance is such that it's going to appeal as much to centerfire users as well, who want to shoot at much longer distances. And it has a number of improvements over the old A50 model that it replaces. The main one being, of course, image quality, and we'll get into that in a little bit of detail in a moment or two. But the main factor is the sensor at the heart of the scope. Now, the old scope had a 3840 by 2160 sensor, whereas the new scope, this one here, has a massive 4512 by 2512 12 megapixel sensor, and the difference in clarity is unbelievable. Now, the clarity in the old scope was very good, don't get me wrong, but in the new scope it really is something else. Now, I've been lucky enough to use one of these for the last few weeks, and here's 5 things I think you need to know about the Alpex Pro A50PL. Number 1 is image clarity and image quality, and that, as I said before, that's really the most important thing when it comes to scopes like this. And this is where the Alpex Pro A50PL really does set itself apart from every other digital scope I've come across in terms of image clarity, sharpness, definition, and also the transmission of colours. They're incredibly bright and vibrant on this scope. And it all comes down to the sensor. As I said before, it's a 4512 by 2512 12 megapixel CMOS sensor, and that's further augmented by HIKMICRO's Light Pro algorithm and a 50mm f1.8 lens, and all of that combines to give you a sight picture that really does have to be seen to be believed. Now, at 12 megapixels, the scope has a frame rate of 50 Hz, but I understand that there's a firmware update in the pipeline that will give you the option to set a frame rate of 120 Hz in 1080p Full HD. The other thing to note is the low light performance of the scope as well. Now, that allows you to use the full daytime color mode in really very, very dark, dingy, murky conditions, you know, sort of pre-dawn and when the sun starts to go down as well. And in actual fact, you only really need to use the full IR mode when it's completely dark outside. Number 2 is dimensions and operation. Now, the Alpex Pro A50PL measures around about 400mm long, depending on how much you have this diopter adjustment dialed in or out, and it weighs 889 grams compared to the very, very compact Alpex 4K Lite scope. But when you compare it to other full-size digital tube scopes and also glass scopes for that matter, it compares very, very favourably indeed. Now, an awful lot of thought and effort has gone into making this scope very easy to operate, especially when you consider the number of options and features and functions that it has. And it has only 3 buttons on the iBell. The front button powers the scope on or off. It takes around about 3 seconds, and it also activates the instant wake up sleep mode as well. The bottom right hand button, that activates the ballistic calculator and laser rangefinder function, and also the picture-in-picture function as well, or the PIP mode, with short and long presses. And then pressing the bottom left button records footage and takes photographs in 1920 by 1080 Full HD onto a 64 gigabyte internal memory, again with short and long presses. Everything else is controlled by this turret on the top here. Now, there's a button in the middle that you press down to access the menu, and all the different sub-menus, and then by rotating the collar you can scroll through those menus and make your selections. The magnification, the 4:24 magnification, is controlled by this collar at the back here, which is obviously designed to mimic the operation of a glass scope, and it also has a removable throw lever as well, which is very, very handy. The turret on the right hand side, that just covers up a cavity for you to insert a rechargeable battery, and we'll talk about that in a moment or two as well. And then the left hand turret, that controls your parallax adjustment and focus, which is a great step forward. Not common on most digital scopes. On most digital scopes you have to control focus by rotating a collar on the front of the objective lens like you would on a lower spec glass scope. But as I say, on the A50 Pro, on the Alpex Pro A50PL, that parallax is via a side wheel like you would have on a more expensive glass scope too. The 1920 AMOLED display is 20% bigger than it is on the Alpex 4K Lite model, and it not only provides an absolutely crystal clear view, but it's very well laid out, and it provides all the essential information that you need, such as time, the profile that you're using, battery status, and also elevation and cant angles. But it does so without looking at all cluttered or fussy as well. And then finally, the Alpex Pro A50PL carries an IP67 waterproof rating, and it also has a 30mm tube so that you can mount it using regular mounts like you would on any other rifle. Number 3 are features and functions. Now, I could talk for hours and hours and hours about the features and functions and the options on the Alpex Pro A50PL, but you really don't want me to do that, so I'm just going to concentrate on the ones that I think are the most important. The first one is the laser rangefinder, which is this button on the bottom right here, and HIKMICRO says that it will read distances out to about 1200 meters. Now, when you look through the scope, you'll see a little square on the screen. I say square because that's what it is by default, but you can go into the menus and you can select a different icon if you prefer. Now, that square is aligned with the laser splash from the rangefinder, so that in daylight you know exactly where that splash is falling, and you can get an accurate distance reading. At night, you'll physically see the laser splash pulsing on the screen, which makes things a lot easier. But basically, putting that square on the box, putting that box on your target, pressing the button will bring up a distance reading very clearly on the screen in either meters or yards. The ballistic calculator function is an option in the zeroing menu. Now, you'll need to enter some basic information about your setup, things like the weight of the bullet or pellet that you're using, the ballistic coefficient of your bullet or pellet, and also scope height, that sort of thing. But with that done, the Alpex Pro A50PL will work out the amount of hold off that you need for the shot that you've just measured the distance of, and will indicate that on your reticle, and the whole process takes literally a second or two. There are 5 different profiles on the Alpex Pro A50PL, enabling you to save different ammo, different distances, and makes it an awful lot easier to swap the scope from different rifles. You also get 10 different reticle style choices in 8 different colours, and you can even adjust the opacity of the reticle, which basically makes it thicker or finer, depending on your eyesight. The centre of the reticle can also be picked out in one of 8 different colours, and there are further style and colour choices for the holdover marker as well. Now, as I said, there's an awful lot of information to be researched on different features and functions, and the best thing to do is to check out the scotchcountry.co.uk website for more information on them. Number 4 is runtime. Now, as you might expect with all of that computing power on board, the Alpex Pro A50PL does require a fair bit of energy. As a result, it runs a dual rechargeable lithium battery system. An internal battery is charged via a USB cable that plugs into a port on the right hand side of the eyebell, and that same cable is used to download any footage from your sessions. And then a second battery, a rechargeable 18650 battery, is inserted into the turret on the right hand side here, and the cavity is revealed by unscrewing the cap. Now, HIKMICRO says that combined you can expect around about 7 hours of continuous runtime. Now I suspect that depends largely on how much you use functions like the rangefinder and the recording feature as well. And I must admit, I tend to put the scope into standby mode by a short press on the power button whenever I'm not expecting a shot. But I think that 7 hours of continuous use is probably a little bit optimistic. The good news though is that you get two rechargeable 18650 batteries with the scope, and spares are really cheap as well, so you can always take a couple with you. Number 5, nighttime shooting. Like other Alpex scopes, and indeed most other if not all of the other tubed digital scopes, the Alpex Pro A50PL does not have an integrated internal infrared illuminator, so you will have to add an external one. But with that done though, you can select manually from either the traditional monochrome night vision mode or yellow or green modes as well. Now the scope has an absolutely incredible low light mode, so basically means that you can use the daytime color mode even when the light to the naked eye is quite dark, so very early morning, late into dusk as well. It gives you a very clear daytime color mode without you having to switch on an IR torch. Now what I tend to do is select the auto option, which exploits the very last drop of natural light before it switches over to the nighttime mode for you. The digital night vision market right now is the most competitive sector in the whole shooting environment, and that's great news for us as consumers, because it means the manufacturers are all trying to up the ante when it comes to new features, functions and performance, and at the same time the intense competition is keeping prices under control as well. The HIKMICRO Alpex Pro A50PL really does represent a step change in the sector, thanks to the level setting image quality as a result of that massive sensor and features such as the side parallax. And at a penny under 850 quid, I think it still represents really good value for money. Anyway, I hope that's been useful. As I said before, there's so much to this scope that I've just not had time to cover, so the best thing to do is to check out the new scottcountry.co.uk website for more information. Thanks very much for watching.